Because the film was so complicated logistically and required so much research, I determined that it was not possible for me to do everything at one time. One person could not do the research, the writing, the scouting, the prep, the construction, create the design of so many of the sets. And I brought in a friend, Oliver Stone. We shot in quite a few places. We shot in New York City. We shot in North Carolina. We shot in Toronto. We shot in Vancouver. We shot in Bangkok, Thailand. We went way north of Bangkok, above Chiang Mai even, right to the border, a little place called Chiang Rai, and above that, we went to the northernmost point in Thailand. So it's quite a spread, but I found for some reason most of the work I've done has been like that. Deer Hunter is 7 or 8 different United States cities, and in the state of Washington, and then also Bangkok, and then the River Kwai on the border of Burma. And so for me, it's become second nature to do interiors in one place, exteriors in another place. There's one scene in this movie, which we'll point out when we get to it, where the characters in one walk through 3 or 4 different countries and cities. Just, the exterior on a walk is in New York, and the interior of a sweatshop is in Bangkok, and then they come out in Wilmington. And so I've become used to that way of working, and it's become second nature to me. I've done that on every film. And because I didn't go to film school, I didn't know any better, so I didn't see anything wrong with it, so I just do it. And nobody ever told me what you couldn't do, which was the great advantage of not going to film school and not studying writing, because nobody ever told me what you shouldn't do. And script girls are very fond of telling me, that's not going to cut. And I said, yes, it will. And they said, no, it won't. I said, how much are you prepared to bet? And they said, what do you mean? I said, I'll bet you $1,000 it cuts. And one girl took me up on the bet, one script girl, and I showed her the cut. I said, you owe me $1,000. But, of course, I didn't take it. But I don't know about this business of the eye line, and critics are always saying I cross the eye line and I do this and I do that. And I once tried reading a book about film editing. I got so confused, I had to stop reading it. I couldn't get past page 2. And yet I've worked on the editing of Deer Hunter. I live in the editing room. I love the editing room. So my great break was nobody ever told me what was not possible. So I've always done exactly that. I've always been contrary. It has to be choreographed. Otherwise, you can't just... Every setup is a setup. Every shot is a setup. I've always shot in anamorphic, except for the 2 pictures I did with Doug Milsom, who wanted to use a tighter. I just liked it, because the bigger the screen, the bigger the canvas. You have to paint. And there was no technical reason I liked it. It's just that I liked the feeling of that wide screen. I mean, I love the West. I'm from the East, but I've came to like the West just as John Ford, who came from even further east, from Maine, and grew to be synonymous with the West. It lends itself to the Western landscape. The Western landscape is horizontal, it's not vertical. And I'm sure that when Ford was making movies, if he could have made all of his Westerns in anamorphic, he would have done so. There would be no reason not to. For some people are inordinately afraid of it. You can't use it for close-ups. You can't use it in a room. It's all nonsense. You do magnificent close-ups. I mean, all I need to make a movie are 2 lenses, the 250 zoom and the 30 millimeter lens. That's it. I don't need anything else. I think it's 250 to 10. I don't need any other lens. Just give me those 2 and I'll make a movie. Close-ups compose beautifully on anamorphic. And I don't know what it is. Certain cameramen it frightens them. You know what they think? How am I going to fill the frame? It's not a matter of how you're going to fill the frame. The frame is the world. It's how am I going to fit not how you're going to fill the frame, but how are you going to eliminate. It's not how you're going to fill it. They see it. See, they think of the frame as empty, and now they're going to fill it with things. And so they think it's too much to fill. I look at it another way, which is, how can I best see this mountain range? How can I best see this thing? For me, it's not a restriction. It just gives me more room to work. I happen to like it very much. This movie, when you see it in anamorphic, and I hope it's going to be letterbox when this DVD comes out, it's wonderful in anamorphic. Because when they show it on television, they just use the center, and you're cutting off about 11 to 12% on either side. You're losing 20% of the picture, which is quite a lot. So if you happen to compose a shot where you have somebody in the right speaking to somebody way on the left, they're cut out. So then they get into that dreadful process of pan and scan, which is artificially redirecting the movie, which doesn't make any sense to me at all. But then again, I am not, if I haven't already said it, I will say it again, I am not a theoretician. I am not a student. I'm not a teacher. I wrote in a book I just finished, I'm not a teacher, I'm not a preacher, I'm a reacher, and that's my tune. I can't speak of movies in theoretical ways. I don't know how. And I never learned how to do any of this stuff from books or from teachers. I mean, I learned more working with Clint on Thunderbolt and Lightfoot than from any single. I've learned from working with Robert Bolt. I learned working with Gore Vidal. I learned working with Clint Eastwood. You just have to be audacious enough to say, I can do it, and just put yourself in that position and believe you can. It's a bit like being a quarterback. You got to believe you can hit the guy for 90 yards in the rain and the snow and the wind when about 1,000 pounds of linemen are coming to kill you. You have to believe in the impossible. I think maybe Rocky Marciano said, it's not who's the toughest guy or the hardest puncher, it's who can get up. And that's true of quarterbacks. Who can get up after you've been knocked flat? Who gets up and keeps playing the game? I mean, that was true of John Elway for years. I mean, he was knocked on his butt by a 3/4-ton truck 20 times every Sunday for, 10 or 15 years before he won the Super Bowl, before he had a good enough team with him. But he got up. Same in movies. You're always getting knocked on your butt by something, but you got to get up. And it's one thing I learned from Clint right from the beginning. He said, Mike, you got to will things through. You will them to happen. And he's utterly right. No matter how impossible the situation, no matter how impossible the idea, your will must be strong, unshakable. You will it to happen. He believed that then. I know he believes it now, and he imparted that to me. Clint is a wonderful natural teacher because he trusts. He's like, most gamblers don't succeed because they never let their first bet be their bet. Clint does. His first bet is his bet, and then that's it. He takes a chance, he goes with it. And somehow, because he's taking a chance with you, you rise to the occasion. I learned so many lessons from him, which are only now becoming clear to me. And he's never changed. It's from the first day I met him over here on the lot at Warner Brothers. Clint still drives up in the old Chevy pickup. The office has still got 2 inches of dust, where same place it was 20 years ago, and he's still wearing his pool digging clothes. He's the same wonderful guy. I owe him such a debt of gratitude. I mean, this movie would not exist without Clint. Deer Hunter would not exist without Clint. I might not have ever made a movie in my life without Clint. They said, well, where did you come up with this guy? He says, I don't know. One day I looked down and there was this 12-year-old kid. He was directing a movie. And so maybe there's a lot of Clint in what I do. There's so much which has rubbed off on me from him that he's the best kind of teacher because he doesn't teach, and he doesn't preach. He reaches. So you learn to reach. That's what I say. I'm not a preacher, I'm not a teacher, I'm a reacher. And that's what you want to be. But Clint is a reacher, and you could see that now in his directorial work. He keeps reaching, and you think, well, fuck, if he can do that, I can do that. He gives people courage by being a good leader. And it's like the Army or a football team. Look at Pittsburgh today with Roethlisberger. I mean, suddenly the team has come alive. A great quarterback, a rookie, and the guy is brilliant, and the whole team rises to the occasion. You know, you bring everybody up to your level, and they respond. If you expect them to be great, they will be great, in my opinion. And that's why a lot of these non-professional actors, street people, whatever you want to call them, if you expect them to do it, they won't let you down. They'll do it. And that all comes from Clint. You know, I think, for me. I mean, for me, Clint is a very special friend. I doubt we'd even be sitting here without Clint. Clint's trust in a kid who'd written his first script. And I remember him looking at me saying, "So you think you can direct a movie, huh?" And I go, "Yeah." He said, "What makes you think of this?" I don't know, but I can do it. He said, "Okay, we'll give it a shot." So in the contract, it said after 3 days, he could fire me. My lawyer went huffing and puffing. He said, "Blah, blah, 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 blah." I said, no. We got along great. We hung out together a little bit. We had so much fun on that movie. It was the best experience of my life. You know, I can't stand going to a place and shooting it the way everybody shot it before. And people go to Paris and there's always the Eiffel Tower. They come to New York and it's the Plaza Hotel in Central Park. So I wanted a view of the city which would be unique and memorable. I'm very pleased that the movie still seems so fresh. It feels as though it were just shot and just released. I think part of that may be due, if I'm right, part of that may be due to the fact that what is being talked about, what is being enacted or dramatized is real. It's about real things, real feelings, but it's not just realism. It's more than realism. It's a kind of a supra-realism in order to make it, of course, interesting for an audience. But underlying the imagery, the staging, everything, are real relationships, real people talking about real things. And that has always been my interest in movies. I mean, the context of the movie is really incidental. It's the human drama. It's always about, for me, the people, the character's dilemma, the character's relationships, what the characters want, what they're... I guess you would say in journalese, you know, that what I do is character-driven. I find it very hard to write until I have the name of the character right. De Niro once said to me, he said, "Michael, you always have great names for your characters." I said, "Well, I work very hard at getting that." As I said, you start with characters. And I don't believe you have a story if you don't have characters, because the story comes out of the characters and the context in which the characters live. That's why I wanted this set. I fought for this.
Did you hear what I said?
When we shot this, we got there in the middle of the night with just the cameraman, the grip, assistant, just 5 people, because we wanted to get the blue light at this. That's for real. It's at dawn. This is the entire reason why I wanted to be up there. It's just a view of Manhattan that you never see. It's all of Wall Street, the Twin Towers. It's kind of amazing. They're right there, the Twin Towers, there they are. That, to me, is a wonderful, beautiful shot of New York that you don't see, have never seen in any other movie.